I actually prefer, say, publishing or the editorial side of journalism. I just think it personally appeals to me, which is to not say that I haven't also enjoyed writing at times, but I think it takes a certain sort of tenacity to chase stories and to kind of get yourself in those spaces and such. And I'm a very, how do I put this? Less tenacious, let's say. I want to take it a little bit easier at times, which is maybe...
Well...
Wait, I say that and then I do production, so maybe I'm lying.
Yeah, I think we make a good partnership for sure. Like, you know, it's kind of coming at from different angles, but kind of meeting in the middle, which kind of, I think, the effective tools to kind of have a really good paper. But like Isabelle's saying, it's not just about reporting stuff. There's so much that goes into the actual, like, progress of making the paper the way it is. So we have kind of like production weekends where, you know, the production team of 4 or 5, 3 or 4, whoever it is, will just be out the entire time working super hard. So that's a really, I think, unseen part of the process, which is really important. So
yeah, you complement each other very well.
Oh, I think so. I definitely think we kind of come at, you know, like I said, from really good different perspectives, but ones that kind of meld together and make a really good partnership. So
I truly feel like if I was working with anyone else, I don't know whether we would fill each other's, let's say, like gaps.
Yeah.
The way that we do.
Sure.
So like again, like the news side of it, Josh really leads on that. Josh is a very much go-getter. Let's get things done. Let's do this and that next.
I need to be reined in this sometimes though.
No, and I would say I'm more of like maybe like people management.
Sure. Yeah, for sure.
People chasing the production side as well. Like there were times where I ended up doing, say, like 10 pages.
Yeah, it's insane.
In a go, and I feel like if we didn't manage to bring that together.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
No, it's good.
But we're really happy about where things are.
So would you recommend having 2 co-editors?
Oh yeah, so it's always kind of set up like that. Yeah, so it's always meant to be at least 2. Mm-hmm. Last year there were supposed to be 2. It kind of turned out being 1, which is unfortunate. But yeah, it's always meant to have 2, just because it does provide the largest, well, just a support network as well. You know, it's a lot easier to come at things together than on your own. So
I just think also like when you make decisions, I think it'd be too much pressure as just one person.
Sure.
I think every 5 minutes Josh and I are like, should we do this? What do you think of this? You know, I don't think I text my mom as much, to be honest. But no, I feel like there are certain choices that you make that I think if you put that upon yourself, I could crumble under pressure, you know, and also you could do the wrong thing, and if you don't get that sort of feedback loop and you don't check in with other people, it can be very narrow-minded. So
for sure, it's definitely a process.
You need that balance.
Yeah. So dictatorship is not your thing.
No,
no, I try.
That's true.
It's a co-dictatorship.
Yeah. Kind of at the top there.
We're dictators.
Nice.
Oligarchy,
nice
I guess.
Yeah, nice ones. Benevolent ones.
Yeah.
Mostly.
So a question from me now. So what got you interested in journalism in the first place? For me, I would say, although I'm a student of science, for me it was one of the lectures of Professor Noam Chomsky that got me interested in journalism. So like that, would you recall moments or something from your experiences?
I'm just trying to think. It's always been kind of a thing for me, I guess, kind of oddly. Growing up, I had my own newspaper.
What?
And it was called the Woodbury Heights Gazette. And you put a Gazette in anything, it always sounds really fancy. So we would do, you know, news on the local happenings of the town, and then we would publish it, you know, like print it off on my like really old printer. Like, you know, the printers you used to have where you had to like plug it into your computer, like with a cable. Yeah. We used to print off on that, you know, make a few copies. And I always would force my siblings to like work for me. I like actually like drew up contracts that was like, you will, you know, be compensated $1, which I never paid. So
yeah, you have some debts.
Yeah, a little bit. So yeah, that's kind of always there. And then throughout high school, I was always keen on writing, and then came to uni, and I was like, oh, this is something I'd really like to do. So.
For me, I kind of touched on it a bit earlier. It was a bit of a round circle of me being interested in publishing and also just feeling the pressure to get involved in something. Yeah. Actually, with the Gaudie, I was really, and I hear this a lot about people now as well, like very intimidated with starting because it can seem from the outside a very like kind of closed off professional. I don't know. You guys can disagree with me, but I'd say some people can feel intimidated. I did when I first heard about it, and then you get inside and you realize nobody knows what's going on. So it's like okay, it's not that deep. But and I did feel a lot of pressure to kind of like get some more practical experience, and I would say that served me well doing the Gaudie. It's actually like when I go into interviews, it's for me anyway, it's the first thing I bring up.
Oh, for sure.
More than my degree, actually. So that was really helpful. And it also, for me, I stuck to more of the art side of it, which was really useful with English. So I think the first article that I wrote was a book article, like a review. So I found a really easy way to kind of bring in my own interests and my own area into it. I didn't have to like stretch too far, I'd say, and I kind of kept within that niche, you know? A few, one news article actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but generally
Amazing. Nice.
One of the things that we want to capture in this program is people's backgrounds and personal stories. I would say both of you are fairly well known on campus. I mean, most of us have heard about you, but
all good things.
We want to get to know you. Okay. So, for instance, where were you brought up?
Sure. So yeah, I am from America, from the East Coast, New Jersey specifically, and it's a lovely, interesting place. Lots of industry, and kind of gets a bad rap from people, you know. But we lived actually in the nice part of the state, which was mostly like, you know, kind of fields, and like they have amazing like produce for some reason. So tomatoes and Jersey corn and peaches. Oh, the peaches. When I go back home and I get like a nice juicy piece of fruit.
Do you have a row with the Georgians on that?
Well, you know, to be fair, they're probably better. But compared to the fruit you get here, no offense, you know, it's lovely. So yeah, grew up in New Jersey and kind of lived there for the first 18 years of life before I came over to Scotland, which was very interesting. And you know.
How did you choose Scotland?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. So my mum moved here for work. We had been over here a few times before. She had done her like PhD at St Andrews, kind of in the midst of the past. But in any case, we moved here kind of right as I was starting university. So kind of just all worked together and ended up in Aberdeen. So yeah, not a place I was choosing to go to necessarily, but.
What about you, Isabelle? Because I've noticed that you have a double-barrel surname.
Yeah, Hampton-Zabotti.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna start by saying like I don't know if I can talk about myself without talking a bit about my family. But I'm from London. But then if you talk to people from London, I'm from Essex. So, and I say it all the time. But I lived in Romford, which is actually a not very diverse part of London. And my mother, her parents are South African, and they left South Africa during apartheid because they couldn't get married there. And on my dad's side, he is Somali-Italian, and they were refugees and they immigrated to Italy and then to London. So it's very, very mixed all around, let's just put that. And I grew up in a very loud family, and I was actually considering working for a little while before I came to university, and I took a gap year out. And then I worked, and then I was like, I'm never going to do that. Or at least I'm going to push that up for a little bit longer. But because I have Italian citizenship, which I only found out at 18, actually, thanks Dad. Yeah, I know. Actually, a polling card came in the mail, and I came up to him, and I'm like, hey, what's this? And he goes, oh, it's a polling card. And I was like, why is my name on it? And he goes, oh, because you can vote. And I was like, okay, Dad, why can I vote? And he goes, oh, because, when you were 2, when you're in Palma, we, registered you. And I was like, that's great. That would have been really helpful information earlier on. But because of that, I actually get free university in Scotland, which is amazing. I'm really sorry.
Wow.
So that was an opportunity I didn't want to miss out. I did apply to Glasgow, Edinburgh, then get in, kind of common story. But no, I actually don't have any regrets at all about it. I feel, we do post a lot in the paper about what Aberdeen does wrong, and validly so, and importantly so. But I also think that at least the campus and the area serve me well,
Oh, for sure.
But I am ready to move as well.
I think something that I really enjoy about Aberdeen, is the kind of small feel. And I can understand, maybe it feels a bit constricting, which is totally legitimate, I think. But also there is that kind of more communal sense, whereas if I did go to somewhere a lot bigger, say Edinburgh, it's a lovely space, but it's a lot harder to get your foot in the door for a lot of different industries, So I've definitely enjoyed my time here. So
I also feel like with the Gaudie, I don't know whether we would have the ability to really make it our own.
Oh, for sure.
In the way
Yeah,
that we do
for sure.
here, because it's so small, you know.
Yeah,
So it's both a blessing and a curse at times, I think. But
just even like the impact we're able to have on the city as a whole, cover stories across, not just the university, but local city council stuff or stories about this or that. It's a lot more. We're able to kind of have certainly in the media market. We were able to be represented in a way that in a bigger city we would definitely just be swallowed up. So.
Yeah, my personal tutor said that we are the best paper in Aberdeen.
Thank you. And we're free. So.
And we're free, which is the best part.
That's amazing. So, coming to your question of covering things throughout the city and the university, from my experience with your work, I've seen that you are outspoken critics of the university's management style. That is true. Especially with the things going on at the language department, which is very important and very, I would say, one of the key cornerstones of Scottish culture, especially Gaelic and things like that. So I always wanted to know, because I'm Indian and things there for journalists are not that good, does the university try to exert any sort of control over your work as editors, or try to suppress your...
They can't,
work.
But I will say from my perspective, maybe you can say from yours, but their best way of not helping us is by ignoring us.
Yes.
So we did a petition at the beginning of the year to get, I don't know if you guys followed it, but basically we don't have like unconditional funding. So every single year we are fighting to get from this grant and the Development Trust Fund, shout out to them, who are really great. But, we have to apply, we have to fight and basically try and represent ourselves every single time. And there have been times that we've had zero money in the bank account, or negatives.
27 cents.
27
pence.
Pence.
I had a screenshot, 27 pence.
But yeah, and the petition was really successful. We had signatures from like a range of people, including the late Alistair Darling, who advocated for us. Uni's response was essentially, we see that, we don't really want to meet with you. Mm-hmm. And I feel like...
you didn't get a meeting,
Yeah, not even a meeting, and I think that really says a lot about where they valued us. And it was disappointing for an institution that talks so much about kind of representing students and caring about student opinions and so forth, that wouldn't even deny themselves to set a meeting, let alone even listening to our demands. Mm-hmm. So that was a pretty disappointing and kind of a wake-up call. And I think like a few weeks later, you published that article about
about the WhatsApp
the
messages.
Pain,
and that was the kind of
it was a little bit of retaliation. It was
no.
But it was a coincidence, right?
It was. No, it actually was. We didn't get the paper. Literally, I got the FOI like on the Monday, and then I'd written the story on the Wednesday. So it was completely coincidental with the timing.
To me,
but it was kind of funny, the way it turned out.
It was satisfying.
But we definitely try to hold folks accountable. The way I always kind of envision this is, we're in a city, like say we're a town of 16,000 people, and the mayor and the city councillors are all unelected, and they're all in charge with really, really lots of power. Mm-hmm. So surely, if this is a situation in the real world, the journalists are the ones who have to kind of keep folks accountable.
Yeah.
So when I look at it, I say, okay, we're here. We have a place we can represent students, give their voices credence, make sure they're being, taken care of, but we can also, kind of push against policies and decisions that we think are not good. Yeah. That's a big part of, I think, our campus presence. And I think one that's actually really raised the profile of the paper, and I think in a good way. Whereas, I was in the library the other day dropping off a paper, and like 4 people were like asking for copies as I was like putting them in like the kind of stand. Like the librarian was like, "Can I have one?" And the other guy, and they're like, "Oh yeah." So it's really nice to see like people actually read the paper and engage with our work for sure.
I feel like kind of a turning point for me was when I realised that we weren't just representing students but staff as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then at least, especially in the last year, I think having that panel on the strikes, that we talked to people who had taken part in the strikes, what a vulnerable position that they're in, and that they don't actually have people advocating for them. Generally speaking, I know that, the union does, but it's difficult, and they are in such a precarious situation where their job's on the line, like their livelihood is. And I found that quite shocking, and sometimes students aren't aware because you look at your tutors and your lecturers and you assume they're in a position of power because they are in relation to you, but you don't understand how powerless they are in relation to the institution.
Sure.
So I felt like our role there was really important.
Oh yeah, definitely.
More than I had realized previously.
Yeah.
You're essentially keeping the checks and balances of the university.
Trying.
I think so. Yeah.
Just like real journalists. No
exactly.
less. Yeah.
I think it's a really important part of journalism that sometimes people kind of miss out on. But for me, it's essential. It's about having, your kind of, checking and making sure that people who are in authority are held accountable and they're not just able to kind of do what they like without any pushback. So,
if I may ask, why do you think there is this disconnect between senior management and the student media?
Yeah. Well,
there must be a reason, right?
Yeah.
Well, we're not recognized personally, and they don't want to, as reasons that we have talked about. But also, like, I don't see a situation where working with them would benefit us, because it's like we are constantly critiquing them. So therefore, if we turn around and said, "Oh, the university has now sponsored us," that would be actually against what we want. It's a fine line. It's a fine line to balance. And I think when we were trying to get conditional funding, it wasn't going to be necessarily through the university directly, but it's more about, say, I don't know, like the negotiating with ALSA, seeing us at least as like a valuable institution on campus, but they showed their cards.
But I think they know they can't ignore us. Like, I know a couple weeks ago we published a kind of opinion piece by like a mystery member of staff who called himself Boy George, and he apparently this person, the senior management, had been like going around trying to find out who wrote it, like asking all these people, and then they didn't get who it was, but it's just kind of funny, like, I
didn't know that.
Apparently they were really convinced it was this one person, but it actually was someone else.
Sounds very authoritarian.
Yeah, that's
excellent.
So our position is, look, we'll just do what we can, but you can't get away with stuff that's going to hurt students and staff and not get challenged on it. So.
Even from a PR point of view, it doesn't make sense, especially considering that now the Gaudie is the best student newspaper.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I thought it was funny because it's kind of broadening the topic. Like student radio, for example, the university published like it's student radio day. Yeah. Support student radio, listen to them, and like posted a link to like ASR's website. And I was like, let's be completely honest. Y'all are making that up because, like, if you had actually wanted to support student radio, you could have done it like last year when there was no funding and we couldn't get in the office and all that stuff. So it's like,
it's very performative.
Let's not be performative about it. Now, I don't think they would be performative on like World Press Day because they just know like that would just look kind of silly. But, we love the Gaudie.
No, they don't. I think it's not just us. I think there are a bunch of issues where performativity in university is obvious. I mean, I can talk about maybe my background in research a little bit. I do I look into decolonizing at the university, and it's similar in the sense that there is this tension between what students are experiencing and what's their actual lived experiences and beliefs and what they feel, and then what the university is doing, and then what they are trying to pretend that they're doing. So that the university wants to seem like it's very in touch with its students and it cares about them. And don't get me wrong, there are many staff members who do. There are many people who have put in the effort. Same with decolonizing. There are people who have put in the effort, and there are people who haven't. And their interests are money orientated and business orientated, and they treat the university as a business model, and that just is not cohesive with caring about your students, especially your vulnerable students. I feel like it's the same with the paper. Well, it's very performative.
I just think that comes back down to like the leadership of the university, because so often it's very monochrome. They're all white. Most of them are Scottish. Most of them are, almost all of them are like 40s to 60s, like middle aged. And when you have the same kind of like outlook on things, and you're not kind of getting internal pushback, I think it's a lot more difficult to kind of, make change at the university, because you're all kind of looking at things from the same perspective. So, I mean, I'd love to see a more diverse and a more inclusive kind of management scheme, although I don't really anticipate that, but you never know.
Forgive my ignorance on this, but do you think the rector has any role in dealing with any of this?
Yeah, it's an interesting one.
Or being a person of color and everything?
Yeah, it's interesting about being the rector. So, I'm not sure where things stand now. She definitely said at the beginning when she got elected, Martina, that she'd be very much an active rector and kind of on campus quite a bit. At least from the public facing side of things, I haven't seen very much of her this year. I know she does kind of run the university court and is, from what I hear, kind of speaks out for student issues there. But certainly from an external perspective, it'd be nice to have a bit more, I think, kind of involvement.
Or presence even.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But like last year, she definitely was like, oh yeah, I'll be here every week, I'll do a surgery. But I don't think I've seen her much on campus this year, you know, so.
I had one student tell me that they appreciated seeing, you know, a person of colour in those type of roles, and I think that's true.
Well, it's true. It is a good point.
I also do feel that, you know, I'm not sure her relation to the students as much. I don't really know. I don't hear about it, which is maybe a problem in itself.
Well, I think some of the thing is, even like the way they elect the rector, when they had the election like 2-3 years ago, I mean, only like maybe like 600, 700 students voted out of the entire like student body. So when the numbers are that low, it's very difficult to kind of find someone who's going to like, you know, like be representative of everyone. But maybe that's, I mean, you know, I think...
That's a lot of issues, of course.
Exactly, but, you know, it's just a strange thing. ALSA elections and small turnout there and things, you know. Yeah, lots of different things. Always something to critique.
In terms of succession, you're both in your 4th year.
That's correct.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, do you have any news about who might...
We are planning now, so we're in the planning stages. So we're talking to people, hopefully soon, about, you know, what a job entails and such like that. It's early stages.
It is.
Even though it maybe shouldn't be, because we're kind of moving on with time.
Yeah. We have a lot of good candidates.
Yeah.
And,
how's it going to work now? Because when I used to be an editor, we were just appointed. So are you going to have an election? Or?
We have an AGM.
So we'll have it for the section editors. It'll be like, you know,
Internal
head of news can pick their deputy head, sort of thing, and that deputy can say go up to head news editor. But for the actual position of editor in chief, we are going to have an election for that, at least internally within the, you know, open it up to all the kind of members of the Gaudie, because we do feel it's an important position and isn't one that should just be, you know, handpicked, if that makes sense.
We're trying to not be dictators. We are talking about what kind of weight we want our voting to be like. So we'll talk to the rest of the team about that as well. Yeah. So it's kind of just early days at this point, though.
For sure.
Yes.
Interesting. So now let me come to one of our co-hosts who sadly could not be joining us due to issues. So he asks both of you, what are your current perceptions on the economic crisis in the UK?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
You want to go first, Isabelle?
Yeah.
Tough one, yeah. I
economic
agree.
crisis in the UK. I will basically drill it down to an incompetent government who's only cared about, you know, lining their own pockets for very many years. I can talk about the perspective of a mum who's a teacher and has seen from, you know, firsthand how they have basically gutted their educational system. They have gutted welfare. They have, you know, torn it down. And you can see it all the way up to universities where we're constantly talking